All right, back of another mock draft reaction. This is reacting to Peter Schrager's mock draft, and I really wanted to do this because Schrager is to me a very interesting person to talk about in the mock draft game because he does not do this based on what he would do. He does not take his own evaluations into account here. He simply just has a lot of sources in the league, and he kind of goes off of what he believes will happen, and it's so hard to predict what's actually going to happen just simply because there's, if one thing goes differently, then that changes the whole board. So who knows how it's going to work, but it's still very interesting heading into the draft to figure out, what will happen here. So let's get into Peter Schrager's 2023 mock draft. As you see right here, reminder, this isn't what I would do. It's what I'm hearing from my sources around the league. That's what Schrager says. So let's get into it. Starting off with picks 1 and 2, which again, actually this is there is a surprise here. Okay, whoa, massive surprise. I did not expect this. Bryce Young is first. Young and Stroud 1 and 2 is something I am expecting, and that's why I said okay, no surprise here. But then I realized who's selecting CJ Stroud at number 2. It would be the Colts, which yeah, I wouldn't hate this. I wouldn't hate this move from the Colts perspective to trade up. And if the Texans don't love one of these top 2 prospects, okay, trade down a little bit. Okay, that's interesting. Not something that was on my radar, but it's possible, and that's very fascinating. If it were to happen, I wonder if it would happen now or on draft night. Like, do you do it before draft night, or do the Colts only want one of those 2 quarterbacks and are going to wait? And if Bryce Young is selected first overall, then they'll pull the trigger on the trade. But if he's not, then they won't. Maybe something like that will happen, which would be interesting. Will Anderson going at number 3 to the Cardinals. Yeah, I agree. I think this will happen. And number 4. Okay. Now I would really dislike this. I think if this happens, if this is what happens, if the Texans trade away the number 2 overall pick, don't get a star quarterback when there are star quarterback prospects available, and then which I'm assuming the move would be they're waiting for another year in a better quarterback class next year, but then they're going after, a guy with high upside in Tyree Wilson, but I do not think he is worth a top 5 pick. I think his production just isn't there. The athleticism absolutely is, and the production isn't garbage. Like, I think that again, he's worth a first round pick easily, in my opinion, just not this high given his production, which wasn't bad, but wasn't really good either at the college level, which is what would concern me. But okay, that would be a wild move, a very Texans move, I think, if they did that. Seahawks get Anthony Richardson. Okay, so this is a predictive mock draft. If this happens, this would be the greatest draft ever, I think. The Seahawks then going with after Anthony Richardson. The Texans do not go Anthony Richardson. Instead, the Seahawks do, let him grow behind Geno Smith. Let him, hopefully, get better. I get the logic behind it. I kind of think that Richardson needs to play. I think he needs snaps more than anything, to be honest. But I totally get the logic behind it. But again, is this what they do? Maybe. Very fascinating stuff. Number 6, the Lions would gladly take Jalen Carter at this point, which, say what you want about the off the field character questions, which are said right there. But at 6, feels like it's worth a chance. And then the Raiders going after Peter Skoronsky, who is, again, they don't need a left tackle here, but they'll find a way to use him, I think. So I wouldn't hate that move if they did it. Whoa. Okay, another surprise. Man, this is the most surprising mock draft ever. I thought it was going to be a pretty basic one. So I didn't know what I was in for. Nolan Smith, who I love as a player, but again, number 8 overall, that feels, if the Falcons do that, that feels like it would be a pretty massive reach, even for me as someone who I like him. I think Nolan Smith is good, but I don't think he's number 8 overall good. The Chicago Bears going after Christian Gonzalez. I think they would like to have Peter Skoronsky, but if he does, get drafted at 7, well, then maybe going after a corner there, helping out the defense makes more sense. I actually agree with that. I think that would be a smart move by Chicago. Then the Eagles, which I've heard some people do this, and a massive surprise at 11. We'll get to that in just a second. The Eagles, Bijan Robinson is someone who, I don't know. Again, I see the logic behind it. I just don't think you draft a running back number 10 overall, even if the Eagles are, even if it makes sense for them, I think Howie Roseman is, he's an analytic minded GM. I don't think this is going to happen, but I've seen people suggest it. Peter's, he has sources in the NFL and he's suggesting it. So if it's going to happen, it'd be a massive surprise to me, but I guess it's possible. The Titans, Hendon Hooker, number 11. Man, what a shocker that would be if, Chris Sims somewhere would be celebrating and saying thank you if he goes number 11. I did have Hooker over Will Levis in my evaluation, but pick 11 bit high for me. Again, though, for the Titans, I could see it, but I don't know. This just feels too high to me. But hey, maybe people like him better than other people do. I think that the age and the injury for Hooker are, I think that'll push him back a lot. But we'll see. Okay, okay. Texans salvaging it a little bit, getting Will Levis at pick 12. If they like Will Levis enough, then okay, fine. But I don't know. This feels like it would be a miss if they end up with Tyree Wilson and a quarterback. I feel like it's not crazy to think that maybe they could get a similar edge prospect at 12 and get CJ Stroud at number 2. Now you don't get the value of trading back to 4, but still, I'm just not crazy. Basically, this mock draft had them drafting 2 guys I'm not crazy about, which is why I wouldn't love this necessarily. But some people love Tyree Wilson and Will Levis, and if you're one of those people, you'd be saying this is an amazing draft. You got the best edge rusher and the best quarterback, and you got an extra pick out of it with trading down. What a great move. I get that. So depends on just how much, it's an evaluation thing. Project Jones, yep, every mock draft has the Jets getting a tackle. It's what they're going to do. Devin Witherspoon, if he falls to 14, Patriots will, run that card in, I think, to get him. And then the Packers, yes, please let this happen. Please let the Packers get a wide receiver, pick 15. I think Jackson Smith and Jigba will be gone before this point, but if he's not, it would make sense, absolutely, for them to go wide receiver, and it'd be funny. Come on, think about the memes, Brian Gutekunst. Come on. The Commanders, Dalton Kincaid. Yeah, I've seen this mocked a little bit. Commanders shouldn't draft for need; they should draft for best player available. But he might be the best player available, so I would get it. Number 17, the Steelers going offensive lineman, something that wouldn't make sense, wouldn't be the sexiest pick, but might be the right one here. And then the Lions going after Joey Porter Jr. So the Lions, who early on in the draft added Jalen Carter, now getting a corner, helping out. They don't necessarily need a corner, but I think they could use an extra guy in the room, if I'm just being honest. So getting a corner here makes some sense. Then number 19, the Buccaneers going after Deontay Banks, who, listen, as it mentions in the article, they brought back Jamel Dean, but they lost Sean Murphy Bunting. So getting a third corner would make some sense. And the reality is you need probably more than 3 corners to be successful in the NFL, just because you run packages with more than 3 corners and guys get hurt. So adding an extra corner in the room does make sense to me. It feels, I would love this pick personally as a Tampa Bay fan. Feels like they might want to go edge rusher here. There are some edge still on the board, but I think this would probably be the smart move. Like Lucas Van Ness still on the board. I think they might go with that, but I would rather have Deontay Banks again for the Seahawks. They definitely, Van Ness is an interesting player, and I think they added Anthony Richardson, so maybe adding a player now who can just help you out right away would make some sense. And he is someone who at pick 20, I would not necessarily hate this selection, although it still feels a bit early for me personally. And Michael Mayer, yeah, totally get it. Get a third option, and have a guy who can do some stuff over the middle and be able to make plays that way. They need that as an option. They haven't had that for a while now, so getting Michael Mayer would totally make sense to me. Darnell Wright to the Ravens. This again, not one I've seen get mocked a ton. That would be interesting. They could use an offensive lineman, sure. Maybe not the pick I would make, but I get it. Jordan Addison to the Vikings. They could use a receiver. Vikings could use a lot. If you like Jordan Addison, I totally understand the logic. And then you have the Jaguars going after Brian Branch, the defensive back out of Alabama. Yeah, he's someone who I feel like is getting slept on a lot in this draft class. He's easily a first rounder for me. Would not be mad at this pick whatsoever by the Jaguars. Giants going after Zay Flowers. I think Giants fans would be ecstatic if this happens. They need a receiver. I think he could fall. I'm not sure if he'll fall this far, but I think this would be if he does fall this far, they'd rush this card in. Pick 26, Cowboys, come on. Let's not do this. Let's not make this happen. Jamar Gibbs I like as a player. I certainly do. But No, he's not worth pick 26. There's more value at more premium positions than Jamar Gibbs. That's just, you don't draft a running back this high. Like, you just don't. Like, you don't draft a running back this high, let alone pick 10. Of course, the Cowboys and Eagles would both pick a running back. I could see it happening. The Cowboys do value running backs a lot higher than other teams do. That's saying something given how highly the NFL in general values running backs more than they should. Like, there's just no way to value that he's going to get. Like, who's next on the list here? Miles Murphy. I'm not even a huge Miles Murphy guy, but to me, Miles Murphy is clearly a better prospect than getting Jamar Gibbs would be. Getting Darnell Washington, even if I'm not a huge fan of him either, I would still much rather have him than Gibbs. So, yeah, not the pick I would make. And then Murphy and Washington to those two respective teams. Bengals getting someone who, I can see it. I can see, why you'd want to, help out that position. And then Miles Murphy at the edge rusher position, definitely someone who, again, Bills kind of in a luxurious position. I don't know if they have pressing needs. They have things they can work off on. I don't know if this is the pick I would make, but again, I can see it. Washington maybe a bit of a reach, personally for me, but okay, there's things to like about him. Okay. This is the reach. Jonathan Mingo going here in pick 29. I don't think this will happen. I think there's players that people like more than Jonathan Mingo. I don't think the Saints will draft him at 29, even if Peter Schrager thinks they like him. But hey, the Saints have made some off the board picks in the past, so maybe I'm being too harsh on that. Will McDonald to the Eagles. Yeah, totally could see this. And again, they drafted, of course, Bijan Robinson, pick 10. So now getting an edge rusher to hopefully be a premium position. And then Quentin Johnson. Oh, man, this would be awesome. He could be someone who could win on the outside. I like Johnson a lot. I think he's getting slept on. I think he's a really good player. I'm a big fan. And if he's at the end of the first round, this would be a slam dunk pick for me for the Chiefs. So, okay, entertaining mock draft. At the end of the day, this is supposed to be entertaining, and it certainly was. So for Peter Schrager, listen, definitely a shock. If this happens, one of the best drafts of all time. If it does, this would be incredible. I hope it happens because this would be awesome. Definitely some surprises and some interesting things to talk about. Should the Colts consider trading up to 2 if it's available? Should the Texans consider trading down and trying to use that pick number 12 to still get a quarterback? Maybe you trade down, but then use what you got to trade down to trade back up and try to get a quarterback you like and also get maybe a better defensive player like a Tyree Wilson if you like him. It's interesting stuff. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Schrager's mock draft. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.